I think I'm streaming, but YouTube doesn't really tell you exactly when the stream starts, so I always try to give it a quick second just to make sure things are kicking live. And it looks like YouTube is saying the stream is starting, but again, I have to do this just because, okay, it looks like we're live. I want to start this video, I need to start this video by saying what you're going to hear right now is my personal interpretation of events as I experience them, most of which will be my personal opinion on what's happening and may absolutely be incorrect. I'm going to tell you to the best of my ability exactly what's been happening, and you can see on the screen exactly why. And that's why I'm trying to get in front of this narrative that is emerging, that and I feel like it's a little out of control. But for those that aren't familiar, there's a story in front of you from Breitbart. As you can see, the Breitbart, I guess you can't actually see it, but Breitbart recently got certified by NewsGuard, which is good news. It means they're considered to be improved editorial standards. It's relevant because of this story, which reads, Minds event organizers, Antifa threatens to burn down theater hosting debate on political violence. I'm going to tell you my personal thoughts and opinions on all of this because this is an event I'm sponsoring as well as the host of, and it's happening very close to where I live, which is why we chose this. For those that aren't familiar with the event, this is called Minds in Real Life. If you're not familiar with Minds, they're a social network that has a bunch of unique ideas about open source and content moderation. They use a jury system. So if your content is removed, like, they have basically the same rules as everybody else. You don't get banned. You actually have random users determine whether or not you broke the rules. And I'll say this: I'm not gonna speak to defend whether it's a right or wrong idea. I actually like the idea, but Minds, and as I know this to be true, is doing their best to try and figure out how to make social media that can remove things that are bad while giving people an opportunity to determine for themselves, not having some authoritarian figure choose for you. So it's complicated. It is. Anyway, we planned this event. Okay, it's called Minds, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Ending Racism, Violence, and Authoritarianism. That's literally the purpose of the event. Okay, we have an eclectic group of speakers, some progressives, some liberals, some conservatives. The most controversial person I think we have is today, like Andy No, I guess, who's like a contributor to the Wall Street Journal. There have been a series of threats made against the venue, as I understand it. And again, please understand why I'm trying to be very careful with my language. I harbor no ill will towards the venue, but I can understand they're being threatened and it's relentless. Antifa, there's like people I've perceived who seem to be joining in on harassing this venue because they haven't done any research as to what the purpose of the event is. They really don't know. But this is what happens when a mob starts. And in the digital age, it's really easy to pick up a phone and just start harassing people. So check it out. It is an event talking about ending racism, violence, and authoritarianism. Why, yes, we have speakers who are not white. Yours truly, for instance, as you all know, mixed race, right? That's the point. I've made it very, very clear to everybody, I don't like identitarianism. I understand that identity politics can be okay in some capacities, like fighting for civil rights. But when you get these people on the fringe elements of the right, the far right, alt-right, whatever, and you get these people on the left who are basing everything based on the color of their skin, that is a direct threat to my existence as a second-generation mixed-race individual, which is why I do bring it up. I don't bring it up that much, but it is a meme. I get it. I bring it up too much, but it's not as much as people would claim. But I do on purpose, okay? Because when you have people on the left threatening Asians and white people, it's like, well, congratulations, there's me. And of course, the alt-right doesn't like me. They've actually insulted me in leaked chats. So I wanted to put together an event with people I thought were from different parts of the political spectrum, and it was organized with Minds involvement as well as the guys from Mythicist. We have an eclectic bunch of speakers. We have progressives, one guy's with the Young Turks Network. We have Megan Murphy, who's a gender-critical feminist, controversial, sure. There's me, Tara Devlin. We have progressives here. We have de-radicalization experts. We have some controversial people. I'm not going to deny it. We're not going to tell people to get out. We're going to have a conversation, and we're going to talk about the best ways to move our country forward and stop the divide. We have Andy No. We have Blair White. We have Karen Strawn, Dankula, Michael Rowlands, a progressive, right? This is, to the best of our ability, we got as many progressives as we could. And I'll tell you this right now, okay? This is what we wrote. This is the intention of the event. Noting this event takes place on the same day as the Straight Pride Parade in Boston, which we were very happy about. You know why? We don't want any of those people at our event. Like, you're welcome to come and buy a ticket. I mean in the streets fighting, okay? If you want to sit down and hear thoughtful conversation and have a discussion about how we solve the problem of the growing polarization, that's our intent. We actually said this as we published this around March. And of course, these crazy weirdos at the very last minute, it's their strategy, are attacking us and threatening us. And yeah, it's getting to that point where we have to address it. Now, I want to say this. I don't believe it's a lot of people. I think it's what you see a small handful of people making phone calls, riling everybody up, and it creates a panic. And now we have to deal with this because some journalist in Philly announced that the event was canceled. It's not canceled. The narrative is getting out of control, and I can't do anything about it other than do a stream and let you all know what's going on. So we are receiving threats. Many of them are kind of tepid. Okay, like not threats of violence. Some of them allude to threats of long-term career destruction, like they're getting to that point. And I believe, based on a conversation I had with people involved, it seems like, I'm trying to be very careful here, somebody threatened to burn down the theater. I don't necessarily believe that's the case. I'm not entirely sure, but the narrative is growing, and there are people who disagree with me, and I have more than one source. We think this is the case, okay? I'm trying my best to not incite and exaggerate. I don't know what else to say other than that. That may have been the case, and that was our interpretation. For security and safety reasons, we've been keeping everything calm. We have everything in order. We've issued a public statement as to the best of our abilities, but then it just, we couldn't control it. We couldn't control. People rumors were popping up and people were pushing things out and activists started tweeting all these things. And so I'm like, dude, the Breitbart story dropped. There was some tweet. I'm going live. Listen, mine's IRL, okay? Engage in something real. Sponsored by Subverse, my company, Minds, Myth Informed. America seems to be a culture divided, polarized, on edge. Want to be part of the solution? Want to take a trip out of the proverbial bubble? Dare we talk honestly to others who may disagree with us? Like recycling, this can only happen if the majority of people commit. Help us start the trend. Engaging honestly with others in open dialogue about the topics which divide us can help bridge the divide and create a path to a healthier country. Minds, Subverse, and Myth Informed are creating a series of public events intended to create a dialogue and promote viewpoint diversity. Social media is an incredibly powerful tool, but sometimes this medium lacks a personal touch. Real-life discussion is much more visceral, more tangible, and more likely to get us to see the humanity in us all. Pack a suitcase, one pair of pants should do. Don't miss out on an opportunity to engage with others to create a more healthy dialogue and engage in something real. Let me tell you why we want to do this event. Because when you actually are sitting down with someone who's opposed to you, it's totally different. It's so easy to be angry online and just spam how angry you are. But when you meet that person who is sitting there willing to engage in conversation and they explain to you why they do like Trump, why they don't like Trump, it's harder to be angry. And you know what really inspired me a while ago is that Heineken commercial. It sounds silly, but it's true, where they have two people pre-recorded statements about their identity and their politics and all that stuff. Then they build a bar together. They have to follow instructions. Then afterwards, it played the videos, and these people realized that person was their perceived enemy. And then the people are like, I'm going to have a beer. And they sat down and talked it out. Instead, what we're getting is people online engaging in these conversations, not with each other, but amongst themselves about how bad the other is. I don't think I'm innocent here. I think I'm as guilty as most, though I try my best. I try to do exactly what we're doing with this event. And guess what? Antifa starts sending low-tier, like business threats, threats of defamation. We're getting smeared. Phone calls are coming in. People are getting harassed because they're trying to stop us from bringing together progressives to sit down and figure out a path forward. I don't know why. I think they're insane. And then we end up with this. And the only thing I can really say about this story is that this statement, which according to Breitbart came from a spokeswoman from Minds, I perceive to be accurate, but I don't want to say is 100% because, look, I learned this from a conversation where it was said to me in a certain way that made me believe I was not I'll stress this, personally was not definitively told X, Y, and Z happened. It was a longer conversation where someone told me it was going to happen. And so when I heard this, I thought, no, like, you don't, like, that's not going to happen. And they explained to me that it would. And so I got scared by that. I heard from somebody else involved, I'm trying to do my best here, I apologize, that they said something to the affirmative. It sounded to us like that was the case. And when we saw the other threats that were coming in and the behavior of those involved in the venue, it seems to me like something very serious happened. This is really difficult, trust me. I wasn't intending to do a live stream and talk about this. I wasn't intending to go public and be like, oh no, Antifa. We were trying to keep it calm. We didn't want the conflict. We didn't want the protests. We wanted a small event. We sold a couple hundred tickets. It was going to be a small thing. I guess you can't escape it because there are people who are absolutely intent on making sure everyone fights. And I didn't want this story out. And I admit it's a conundrum for me because I've talked about the conundrum, the ethical dilemma of should people be allowed to withhold important information if this turns out to be accurate. I personally believe someone made a threat against the theater in this capacity. I believe that's my personal opinion. So we were trying our best because this news is coming to us quickly. The strategy from activists is always wait to the last minute. We've had this place booked since March. And we had everything squared away. And at the very last minute, all of a sudden, these people start coming with this insanity. And it was getting out of control. And we said, we'll just keep it calm. We'll ignore this. We understand this. And so some people started putting out some information. And I said, okay, we have no choice. We need to address this. Myth Informed, the gentleman organizing this, put out this statement. They said, despite ongoing aggressive threats and alleged criminal actions taken against the Pittman Theater and our event, the Minds IRL, Ending Racism, Violence, and Authoritarianism, will be taking place as scheduled on August 31st, 2019. That is true. Nothing has changed yet, okay? The purpose of the event is to bring together a diverse group of people with differing viewpoints, people who often have combative and unproductive discussions online, behind their screens, and have them discuss their opinions and beliefs face to face, where each person can see the humanity of those whose viewpoints he or she disagrees with. That's literally been on our Eventbrite since March. It is what we believe in. We have people who specialize in de-radicalization who are going to be speaking. And we have some controversial people. We have some progressives, we have some conservatives, and that's the point, to have that conversation. But I assure you, none of our speakers, as far as I can tell, are more controversial than Ann Coulter, who spoke at the exact same venue in October. Ann Coulter came to a sleepy New Jersey town this week and protesters were out in full force. There are specific reasons we decided to have an event at the Broadway Theater of Pittman, who is now receiving these threats. It was because they've experienced, high-profile personalities, Ann Coulter. They had protests and everything was okay. We're nowhere near as big and famous as she is. Yet somehow, this is coming down on all of us right now. So let me read this. The purpose of this statement was that a couple journalists have put out fake news that we were canceled. That is not true, okay? Even, let me read this, okay? At this time, we are in discussion with our original venue, the Broadway Theater of Pittman, about the escalating situation. However, the event is not canceled and will absolutely be in Pittman to some capacity. That is a fact, a statement of fact. This event is multifaceted. We will be in Pittman. I can guarantee you that. However, we are exploring alternative venues, but any new venue will be in the Pittman, Philadelphia region in the event things do change. We will notify all attendees about any changes in venues via email as soon as we have more information. The safety of our attendees is always our first consideration, and having a location that is both convenient for travel as well as conducive for and safe environment is what we strive for. This was put out in response to some people claiming the event was canceled. It is not. Is absolutely on. It will happen, and it'll happen no matter what. Because, listen, you have to understand, we know what's going on in politics. We know people go crazy and they lie and they cheat and they smear people and they send fake news and lies about all of us. We know. So we've prepared for these things. We have plans. Nothing is canceled and they shouldn't claim that. I will stress, this venue hosted Ann Coulter in October. We know what we're doing. However, the narrative cannot be controlled by one man. I have a decent amount of subscribers. I think all of you are very great. I should absolutely be monitoring the stream because I'm just in a tizzy right now. Look, we've all had a conversation, and this statement, you know, let me read you the Breitbart story and try and do my best. Look, everyone's going to start going crazy right now saying Antifa threatened to burn down the theater. I didn't want to come out and say that because I'm not someone who ever, if I don't have confirmation, if I don't have the receipts, I don't. So the interpretation based on the conversations we've had, not just me and others, led us to believe this was the case. And it seems like a spokeswoman for Minds said that Antifa has threatened to burn down the theater and are also bombarding the owners with threatening messages and phone calls. I need to avoid saying certain things. I'm trying to protect the privacy of people involved. But based on what I was told, okay, I'm making sure I'm being very careful with my language here because I am not trying to drag anybody. I've had conversations with organizers. This is hearsay. A lot of this I'm learning, like these stories, is coming confirmed because I speak with one or two people from different states, okay? There's a lot of people organizing this. I'm in the Philly area. There are people in Connecticut, Wisconsin. So it's not like, we've had conference calls, but based on all of these conversations, this was the official determination, I suppose. I know that there are other people who had conversations with the theater and they were freaked out by what they heard. And to protect privacy, I'm trying to avoid giving too much away because it was never my intention to even bring any of this up and make a video saying, oh, look what's happening. But sure enough, here's the thing. The Twitter account of this theater was hacked. And this is extortion. They said, this account has been taken over until the Pittman Theater agrees to cancel the Minds event, hosting racist, transphobic, Holocaust-denying speakers on August 31st. Lies. Lies. How can you call Blair White herself? I mean, I guess they do. Blair White, transphobic. Blair White is a trans woman. Okay? Look, these are, Holocaust-denying is insane. We're hosting people, even if they were as controversial as claimed, that's the purpose, to make them sit down and look into the eyes of their fellow people to hear, what you think and why, and we can challenge this. And so, sure enough, things escalated to the point where, I guess doing my best to try and keep things, look, I can't control this narrative. I absolutely can't. And I'm trying my best because there's security involved, there's personal privacy involved, and the story is beyond me. And that's all I can really say. But in the beginning, when this harassment came in, everything was fine. And we expected it. We said there's going to be protests, and they said it's fine. Look, I'll stress, Ann Coulter was just there at the Broadway Theater. Like, I don't know how you think we're less, like we're more controversial than they are, but Antifa, is coming after us, and the theater, apparently, according to some journalist statements, there are some statements, I disagree, we are not canceled as far as I can tell, but something happened. I don't know if it's the same as what happened here, but look, this is something that's happened. So what I can say is, everything was fine for 5+ months. We were booking people in February. Events take a long time to plan. Something happened, I don't know what, in the middle of the night, and we got an alarming email which led to me in conversation with organizers, which led to this story. Something happened overnight that went from, you guys, don't worry about it, to red alarm. And I had a conversation, and I heard something to this effect, and I had a conversation with other people who were in different locations, who had different conversations, and we all felt like, whoa, that's the case. Okay, I apologize, I can't come out and just be like laying everything out because there's legal issues, there's privacy issues. So I guess this is the determination. I didn't want any of these statements out, okay? When people started sending these emails, we get it, this stuff happens. But we didn't want to make the news about the event, and we can't do anything about it. I'm sitting here finishing my work, I've got other videos that just went live, and I'm saying, guys, let's just have a good event. Let's get our friends down here. Let's have this conversation. Let's challenge, those who we disagree with. And then here it comes. Because the problem is, no matter what I really want in the end, Antifa is going to make claims. Then they're going to, they're going to lie. They're going to smear us. They're going to, claim we're doing things we're not. And then based on what they talk about, they're going to publish fake news, or they're going to publish what they believe to be the truth. That's fine. But when those tweets start going around and then speakers start tweeting about it, then all of a sudden you have journalists claiming the event is canceled. I'm like, we've got to put something out. Okay. We can't have this. There are tweets saying things like maybe they're going to end racism by, one of the tweets was maybe they're fighting it by locking them in and lighting a fire. So not only did we hear things to this effect, but someone tweeted out something, which I believe was a joke, okay? I believe it was someone making a dumb joke. But when you add this to what we heard about this, what do you think the reaction's gonna be? And then all of a sudden, everything starts going off, and a story pops out, and there you go. So we have worked really hard to put on an event with the intention of ending racism, of ending the violence. We're having a conversation with Andy No about the violence. We have progressives. We have people who very much identify as social justice warriors. And we want to talk about how do we get past this point in our political world. None of us are Ann Coulter. None of us are Bill Maher. None of us are Tucker Carlson. We are like mid-tier YouTube people who wanted to get together with some progressives and just be like, it's not fair. Here's how I see it. It is not fair for me to make 6 videos a day talking about the others without them getting a chance to say it to my face back so that I can meet them and learn from them. And I thought, I try to be, I'm the milquetoast fence sitter. That's my favorite comment about me. Because I try to be that. I try to stop people from being pulled so far and try to remind people that, look, I can disagree with some people. I can think they're mean and they're nasty, and I can be mean too. But in the end, I try to center myself. I did a video a couple days ago where I said, go watch David Pakman. Even if you don't like him, I certainly disagree, but I do think David's a good guy. And I watch his videos because I'd be insane to not try and, engage in that conversation with someone like David. I'm trying. And this is me trying again. I have my opinions. I believe in freedom, free speech, liberty, free expression. I lean left on social policy, like progressive taxes, like pro-choice. And I'm trying to do my best to make sure that we don't become so divided. We get just nothing but street fights and urban conflict. And we can actually have a real conversation of the best way to work together as a nation, as a community, as humanity. And sure enough, even this event where we're going to have people sit down, stop fighting, was shut down by psychopaths who are threatening people because they don't want the conversation. You know why I think they don't want the conversation? And here I go. I have no choice but to say something like this. It's because they want the violence. They don't want us to end the violence. They want the violence. We literally said we want to end the violence. We want to figure out how to get those people who are screaming no hate and get those people who are screaming free speech to sit down and realize nobody wants to hit anybody. But guess what? I guess I was wrong to a certain degree because the people who do want to hit don't want us to stop the violence. They want the street theater in Portland. Antifa and these far left, violent individuals don't want us having this conversation. And I'll admit there are certainly people associated with the right as well. And I've gotten flack from them too. But look, it's not the right who's targeting our event. It is Antifa. And that's what we, again, this is based on all of my interpretation with what's been happening in the conversations. And here we are. So I don't know why any of this happens. Actually, I kind of do, I guess. It is also difficult to try and do this as a live stream because I'm trying to, there's so much I can't say for security reasons, for privacy reasons, When I do videos, it is a journalistic ethic to minimize harm, to make sure people's privacy is protected, not to say anybody's names. And because this is an event that is still going to happen, I have to address these articles and these tweets that are coming out and say something about it. And the event's happening. It's not canceled. We're going to do it. But you know what? It's almost like I told you the intention. We did this thing in a small town, 20-something miles. I have no idea. Outside of Philly. It's on the same day as some other event everyone is going to. So we can have our quiet sit down and try and mend that divide. And people have done everything in their power to destroy that. Well, it's happening, and you can't stop it. Nothing's going to stop it. It's happening no matter what. But it's insane to me that after all of this and all of our intention, what ends up happening is I have no choice but to try and get in front of this narrative that's coming about Antifa trying to burn down or threatening to burn down the theater, and try and say something like we need to calm down, like this can't be happening. But I'll tell you this: this video is going to be used as fuel on the fire. And that's why I've resisted saying anything about what's going on. We kept everything on the down low. We mentioned it to the speakers to the extent that we absolutely we could. Listen, like a lot of this is happening now. So we've sent out messages. Not everyone's has been informed entirely, but we're trying our best. There's only a small handful of us. And I said, listen, man, the goal of our event is to do our best to reduce the violence, to end the hate, to end the racism, to get people of conflicting perspectives to sit down and not be in the streets. So the people who want to go fight, go to Boston. It's all there for you. Not here. We're gonna have a conversation, and we're gonna be like that Heineken commercial. And even though we know we disagree, and some of us might be scared, we're gonna have that conversation. That's why I didn't want to have this video. That's why I didn't want to put out these messages, because now this video will serve to be the opposite of what we wanted. But there's nothing I can do. And this is what truly scares me in all of this, that no matter what we do, no matter what we say, the dominoes keep falling over. It is not like there's a grand cabal orchestrating everything. It's just dominoes, and one by one falling down in a direction, and it can't be stopped. And I can look 10 dominoes in front of me, and I say, that one's gonna fall. You know why? Because I can see everyone behind it falling next. And it's only a matter of time before the next one goes down. We thought this event would be the opposite of that. I still think it can be good. But at this point, the most I can hope for is that it's a neutral thing. Because the fact that the story comes out, the fact that the tweets are flying, the activists are tweeting, talking about organizing and showing up and shutting us down, how do you have the Democratic Socialists of America threatening to shut down an event where we're trying to get the controversial people to sit down with the other controversial people? Who would oppose that we're going to have an eclectic bunch of speakers, some who specialize in de-radicalization, some who are controversial for sure, but people to counter that opinion to the best we can book them? It's so hard. Look, man, I admit we don't have as much progressives as we are aiming for, because a lot of them said no. And it's so easy to get liberals, classical or social, to sit down for this conversation, but it is very difficult, and I mean no disrespect to the people who have agreed. You are the outliers of good principle. It's very difficult to book people, because instead of coming and talking to us, they organize to shut us down. Why would the Democratic Socialists, and they are, at least I've seen tweets, want to end this event? I have no idea, but they are. And there are people who are identified as Democrats trying to stop us from having a conversation. You want to know my perspective on this? A lot of the people who are fans of some of our speakers, diehard Trump supporters, diehard. How do we sit down with them and explain how we see what's happening with the administration? Well, we don't do it by fighting in the street. We do it by inviting them to a conversation. Is it perfect? Of course it's not. Of course it's not. But what am I supposed to do? What are any of us supposed to do? Invite them out to sit down and talk. And we see activists on the left, Antifa. There have been tweets from groups identifying as like DSA, Democratic Socialists, who seem intent on destroying this. They don't want our conversation. They don't want us to reach out and try and bridge that divide, and I don't know why. I mean, I can speculate as to why, but you know what, man? It is a bit disheartening, but we're not giving up. You know what I mean? Look, we put out our statement, and I'll tell you this. There's information missing from this statement. There are things I can't tell you. That strikes at the core of my being, because I hate the fake world. But I must admit, the things I leave out are because there is a real threat to the safety of individuals. And this is not an exaggeration. I'm not talking about words as violence. I'm talking about people who actually want to cause harm to other people. I'm talking about actual threats to the life, pursuit of happiness, the liberty of individuals that has caused us great concern. We're trying to figure out how to avoid that. That's the event's purpose. And now that's it. There it is. Look, I can tell you all day and night to the best of my abilities. I'll say this, my opinion. I believe this is, I believe this headline here, that Antifa threatened to burn down the theater. I believe, in my personal opinion, that's what happened. I do. Some other people who had different conversations led them to a similar conclusion. I don't know why. I don't know who. Probably one crazy person. That's it. And it's a damn shame that one crazy person can make this happen. Now, I don't blame Breitbart for this. You know, they got a statement from the Mind spokesperson. They showed that somebody was trying to extort the theater of their Twitter account. Look at this. It's been taken over until they agree to cancel the event. I'm not surprised the theater is flustered and scared. They're getting extorted. I believe That's like, again, all of this is my opinion and my personal interpretation. I could be wrong. But what am I supposed to do? Wow, I really don't know. I really, really don't. To the best of my abilities, we can have these conversations and, but people want us to stop. I really do believe that in mainstream politics, we have something weird happen. I don't know why, but I see all the time conservatives denouncing the crazy people, right? Steve King gets slammed all day and night for saying controversial things, and I'm like, I appreciate that. The Democrats did sort of condemn Ilhan Omar a little bit, but then ultimately couldn't condemn her as much to the extent that Steve King was condemned by everybody. I end up seeing mainstream media websites defending Antifa when things like this happen. When in Portland, the Proud Boys, for whatever reason, if you want to call it a PR stunt, that's fine, but they showed up and left. Independent journalist Ford Fisher, who was tweeted out by Kathy Griffin, mind you, who blocked me. So I'm saying that because he's a trustworthy guy. He said the closest thing he saw to violence was someone getting up on the Proud Boy side or something like that, and the Proud Boys stopping it, and the police escorting them out, and the Proud Boys got into a bus and left. I'm not saying that to defend the Proud Boys. I have another story from earlier. I think it's up now. 2 of them were convicted of violence in New York, facing 15 years in prison. The point is, why is it that I can see on the conservative side a willingness, and the moderate side, to condemn things like this, but we're coming off of Portland, and we still see hit pieces against the right when this is what my experience is? Why is it that when I try to do an event that is away from everything, that is at the same time as some other weird thing happening in Boston, so we can have our calm conversation, they still come after us? Was it the right who came after us? In some instances, I think that's possible. I do. But for the most part, no. It has been overtly Antifa, Democratic Socialists trying to shut us down. And I guess they want violence? I have no idea. They accuse us of lying. They say they don't really want to end violence. What? We're the people who condemn it all day and night, every single one of us. We're the ones who constantly call for some kind of dialogue. I admit, some of our speakers are mean people. Oh, heavens. But what do? You make a mean person look into the eyes of the person they're mean to. And I tell you this, it becomes infinitely more difficult to be mean when someone's looking in your face saying, why are you being mean to me? And then people think like, oh, well, I'm sorry. That's how, people need to come together and have these conversations. I apologize to everybody who's in the super chat. I just had to, look, we were having a conversation about what's the appropriate way to respond to all this. And this story comes out. And I believe it's accurate to the best of my ability. And I'm like, I'm going to go live. That's all I can do. So here's the thing. There are people who live in Pittman, New Jersey, who are saying awful things about us. Just the worst, most awful things. And it's absolutely insane. Look, you can accuse Andy Ngo of being everything in the book, but in the end, he's a contributor to the Wall Street Journal and New York Post. I believe that's the case. You're not gonna, I don't know how you get to the point where you accuse him of being some fringe, far right guy. He works for a mainstream news publication. How you're gonna accuse our progressives? It makes no sense. All I can really see is that the people who are trying to shut this down really, really don't want us to come together. They want the violence. That's why they're talking about showing up. That's why they're talking about things like this. It's not only do they want us to stop, we're having a conversation of how do we convince people to not be violent? And in response, threats of violence, as I see it, in my opinion. In which case, it's not surprising to me. If our goal is to talk about ending it, it's no surprise that even though we tried to keep it kind of off the beaten path in small town, they find out where we are and they encourage the worst. It's really funny how Antifa tries to claim that they're all about fighting racism. And they're all about fighting violence. Oh, okay, let me ask you a question. Isn't it weird that a mixed race social liberal, who's very critical of the modern leftists, I fully admit, was trying to bring people together to challenge these ideas in an event called Ending Racism, Violence and Authoritarianism? And who showed up to shut it down? Who is trying to get us shut down? As far as I can tell, it's Antifa, and there are people who are like DSA. Why? I thought they'd be on our side, but sure enough, it is hard to book a lot of these people. Why are they protesting us? We're trying to have a conversation. I don't get it. I think it is impossible. I feel like it's dominoes falling down one by one. I'll look at some of the super chats. I can't read them all. But I'll just read what I can. John Drum says, keep up the excellent journalism, Tim. As a black man who addresses politics from an independent lane, your voice is absolutely necessary during these times when the loudest voices are extremists. I really appreciate that. And I think, I'll tell you what, let me address this statement. We are looking at other venues. As for now, everything is on track as it was. Nothing's changed, as far as I can tell, in my opinion. I have to say all this because we're talking about, look, these events are expensive. And we had a capacity of, I think, 1,000 people. And this is a lot of money riding on this. So we are looking at other venues. We of course are smart enough to plan for the worst, but I really didn't expect this. There are people on the right who host events like, they do Trump events and they hide the address. We didn't. We did not hide the address for any of this. It was totally available to everybody because we didn't think people would try and shut down an event with the overarching goal of trying to bring people together to discuss how we end racism. And you want to criticize some of our speakers as racist? I welcome the criticism. 100%. That is the point. If you think any one of our speakers is a racist, I encourage you to come and say it to their face and let them answer for the accusations. So you guys tell me why they want to shut that down. Wouldn't it be great? People who you think are racist are willing to sit down and hear you as they have no choice but to uninterrupted explain to you why they think you're racist. That's exactly what we need. So the event's happening. Okay, that's the most important point. Nothing has changed. I just want to stress we are being targeted by a harassment campaign. It is an overt, hardcore. It is the craziest I've experienced personally. I have not put on an event. I've participated in events, but this is the one where I am acting as a host, Subverse as a sponsor. I have never experienced anything like this. Look, people say mean things to me all the time on Twitter, but I've never had people send like threatening letters and to the point of like say things to the point of burning down a venue. I'm like, I've never experienced anything like this. And so it's really funny to me when I see these stories in the New York Times, right? They talk about Gamergate, 5 articles, and I'm like, look, I'm not saying, I don't know anything about that, okay? I just don't understand why you don't write about this. Like, we're getting a sustained harassment campaign that we tried not to talk about because we don't want them to have, like, we don't want this narrative, we don't want the fighting, we don't want the bickering. We have no choice. Because the activists who targeted us wanted everyone to know it was happening. They wanted to tweet about it. They wanted to say these things. Then some journalists popped up, and then we see the story, and there it is. So I have no choice but to come out and address it. The event will happen. Nothing will stop it. That I assure you. We are going to have the event. We are going to sit down, and we are going to have people, in some capacity. Look, I'm not a god. I can't make things happen. Who knows? I am going to do everything in my power to hold. I feel like, imagine it's like Spider-Man. In the Spider-Man movie when the train is going and he's got the webs and he's trying everything he can to stop the train from going off the tracks. And so he's like, he's being pulled. That's what I feel like I'm doing. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not just me. They're the myth-informed people. There's the minds people. We're all trying our hardest to stop the freight train from plowing through this event and being used as a weapon, being used as fuel. And I'll say this, I apologize. I really don't see a path forward in terms of how I address the problem of a harassment campaign from the far left. So here, look, one of the reasons I didn't want to do any of this in terms of like a public statement is because it means I have no choice but to say an Antifa harassment campaign, which of course will inflame tensions. I can't do anything else about it. So it's the opposite of what our goal is. But I'll tell you what, the good news is you may try to shut us down, but I can guarantee that in some capacity, it is guaranteed no matter what. Now, don't get me wrong. There can be, cancellations, people, guests not wanting to come. There can be security risks. We may have to change venues. I will be there. I will be standing there. I will be standing there no matter what. And if they want to come and they want to make threats, whoever they are, I don't care what political position they hold. If they want to come, I will stand there and I will spread my arms open and say, I'm here. You want to get violent? I won't fight back. And look, people might, say, oh, you're being, hyperbolic, Tim. Listen, look at my video from when I was in Boston 2 years ago. When the guy got in my face, I put my hand up and said, all right, I'm not going to fight you. It's not worth it. I made this point in one of my videos earlier. Any fight you can run away from is a fight you've won. I'm not going to start a fight with anybody. We are trying to end the violence. If you want to be violent, you want to, it's illegal. I mean, you'll get arrested, but that's the goal for the event. We can't be stopped. Okay? Things can change, but we can't be stopped. Okay. I will say one important thing. In my opinion, we can't be stopped. Welcome to politics in 2019. I think a big thing is we're entering a really weird political season. I talk to people who are lifelong Democrats who hate Trump, and they're terrified that none of the Democrats have what it takes to win. I agree with them. That's like the premise of my perspective. That's like, I made a video about it today on my main channel, that I don't think I think they're shattered and fractured. I think I, as somebody who voted for Obama and agree with like center leftist policy ideas, am experiencing this. Like, these people aren't targeting the far right. They're targeting moderates. Literally, we're moderates trying to have a conversation. And that's who's being targeted. Conservatives are unified behind Trump for the most part. And so they're watching this civil war on the Democrat side, and of which I am absolutely the moderate participant, saying, stop, you have to be rational and moderate. That's my view. That's the video I made today. Trump's victory shattered the Democratic Party. I believe it. And I believe it not because of something I read. I believe it because I live it. I live it as somebody who is very much, you have to understand, in 2015, I was walking down the street with one of my progressive friends ranting about Bernie Sanders. I am not exaggerating. I was, you know how fast I talk? I was like, man, to see that photo of Bernie Sanders in the civil rights movement shows me that we finally have a politician who is not flip-flopped, who is consistent, and I am sick and tired of X, Y, and Z, and Bernie was my man. I think Bernie has gone establishment, and I can't take the talking points. So I'm very much for Tulsi, who's like the next best thing. I mean, a little bit better in a lot of ways. Defending free speech, anti-war and all that stuff. I think I liked Bernie for his he was genuine. And then something happened when Trump won. It was the fracture appearing inside the Democratic Party with the rise of Bernie and the challenge to Hillary. And when Trump won, I'm not saying it was Trump, but it was a sledgehammer right to whatever was left and shattered. Now you have Bill Maher types, elitist but not woke. You have more, libertarian populist types, center left in policy, but detest the elitists like Bill Maher who call for a recession, causing pain and suffering to the people. However, anti-woke, I have to be. I can't live in a world with these racist people on the far left. And then you have the far left, and it's probably not even, you have the resistance faction too. People who only rally around hating Trump, multiple factions, sometimes fighting, sometimes agreeing. You have the anti-war left, which faces the brunt of the censorship, like Tulsi Gabbard herself. I brought this up. Anti-war activists getting censored. This is something Project Veritas uncovered. Now, they focused on live action, but in their leak, you can see the anti-media, anti-war predominantly, but also anti-police brutality. And I'm like, those who challenge these wars get censored too. And then we see it with Tulsi Gabbard, smeared on Colbert. They try to attribute her to like these, white nationalist types. And then we see Google locking her advertising account. This is not the culture war, in my opinion, is very much so about an internal conflict on the left in the United States. And it looks like the progressive types are actually winning, according to the Gallup poll. I showed it in the main video. But it then creates this tacit alliance between moderate Democrat types and conservatives. Because in the end, while I disagree with a lot of conservatives, they'll come and have a conversation about why we disagree. And then Antifa sends us these threats and everything. So I don't know. I feel like, wow, I can't believe I've been talking for 45 minutes. Look, I think that's the best I can do. I'll talk for a million years if I had to, and I haven't eaten all day because it's been phone call, it's been recorded video, it's been phone call, it's been research, phone call. And I look forward to seeing all of you in Pittman, New Jersey. Well, maybe not all of you. I don't know. We're figuring it out. But something cool is going to happen. and we're doing our best. There's going to be an event. Nothing's changed. And I look forward to meeting all of you guys and guys and gals. Try not to use gendered language. People. I look forward to meeting whoever comes, and that's the best I can do. And I admit, I probably made it all worse. I have no idea. But at least I said what I had to say. At least I said what I thought I could. And I will tie this off by saying all of this has been Tim Pool's opinion and may be absolutely incorrect across the board. My interpretation of events may be wrong, and I may have made a mistake. Everything I said was based on my personal interpretation of events, and this is where we've gotten to. So I will stress, to those who think they can shut us down, you couldn't shut down Ann Coulter. I really doubt. If you can't shut down her, how do you shut down someone substantially less controversial, okay? So it is what it is. I don't know. Thanks for everybody who hung out. This has been a slice, but now I actually require a physical slice because I have not eaten all day. Woke up, had a cup of coffee, did work, all hell broke loose. Here we are. And it's getting late. So I appreciate all of the super chats. Really, I can't answer everybody. But I sincerely appreciate it. Here's one guy who says, I enjoyed your skate videos with Brett Novak. I didn't realize you were always a journalist. Great content. Yes, I skateboard. Maybe I should go for a skate and just cruise around the neighborhood, leave my phone. But I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there, and this video will be up, and you can, I don't know. It's so difficult to try and say something like, please calm down. Please don't let this get out of control. But everything is fodder for the culture war. Everything. And doing nothing, maybe sometimes doing nothing is worse than doing something. Sometimes doing nothing is the right thing to do. I'm just doing my best. When I saw this story, I started laughing. I'm like, oh no. I laugh because I find life silly sometimes. Like, admittedly, when Trump won, I wasn't scared. I don't think the world's going to end. And that's probably, I'm a moderate. I just laughed. Like, how did this guy win? Life is silly sometimes. And although this is dangerous and people are scared, please don't be scared. Please don't, take this out of control. It's probably one person, I think it's a small handful of people riling everybody up. And I hope that's where we end up. But I really think this video is going to result in another video. It's going to result in a tweet and a tweet and a video and an article, and another article is going to get written. And then there we go. Off to the races, everybody. I guess I'll see you in Pittman on the 31st. I hope. I'm pretty sure, though. But we'll see. Thanks for hanging out. And now I think because of the way YouTube works, I have to sit here for a few seconds before hitting stop. Otherwise, it'll just cut off. So I'm just going to look at the clock right now and count up for about 10 seconds. The event is over. The live stream is over. You can subscribe if you hear this for some reason. I have a couple other channels. YouTube.com/TimcastNews. I'm on Twitter @Timcast. IRL.minds.com is the event. Did I say that at first? I probably should have. Yeah. Adios.